Well, good evening. How are you, Vic? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Good, man. You?
Yeah, I'm all good. Yeah, I'm all good.
Good stuff. Good
So
stuff.
the boys over at Gridiron Hub have let us on to speak our minds.
They've let us loose. They've let us loose.
This is the third time I think I've been on this week. Although everybody will be getting
Oh,
sick of looking at me. Do you know what I mean? So
good
you
stuff.
never
Good
know when
stuff.
I'll crop up as well. So yeah. So I think the idea of the show this evening is for us to chat about a bit of a run up for these two teams, these two heavy hitters that are going to square up on Sunday night for our entertainment. Chiefs Bucks. So, but I suppose a couple of other questions out there. Do you own a snack helmet? Which is the big question.
You got snack helmets going, yeah? I'm on a
Snack
diet, so I
helmet.
can't. I can't accept the snack helmet.
You can't do the
My
snack
coach would
helmet.
kill me. Yeah. I can't have the
No.
snack helmet. And
We were saying the world
I've got
is
media commitments as well for the Super Bowl as well. I've been asked to speak during the game,
nice, man.
on what I have. Yeah, for I'm representing my team actually on a broadcast, so we're gonna
Excellent.
do a little broadcast if I'm still awake.
Brilliant.
But yeah, no,
Excellent.
I'll do that. You're giving out
Brilliant.
snack helmets, yeah?
Well, I was all over on an NFL UK Facebook, and
Oh,
we've decided that the world divide is divided into sort of a like four groups of people, right? So there's the people who don't really do NFL and we don't like to talk about them, so we'll just move them aside, right? And then there's the NFL fans, and it looks like there's people who own a snack helmet, people who don't own a snack helmet, and people who are just really bitter because they haven't been able to get one yet.
it's true.
every
Do you
time
know
they go,
what?
every time they go to Lidl, there's none left. And they're like,
Was it Lidl that was selling them? Was it Lidl that was
yeah,
selling them?
20 bucks they sell them for, but sometimes I think you get them half price,
I
and
think
you get fanatics.
anyone who would have been to a London series game would probably have their eye on one if they saw one. So
I tell you,
that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. I think NFL UK were giving the influencers a lot of the gifts. You know, when you go down to the London series games and you scan, when you do the
yeah.
activities and you collect the things. Because I saw a couple of influencers playing the game, creating their players and doing all these
Mm.
challenges to get Bose headphones and all these different gifts. So I think the sponsors have tried to hammer it as much as they can to keep the British audience engaged, but it's not been the same. So yeah, the snack
No,
helmets, yeah, I missed it, but no, it's a good one.
yeah.
That's a
So
good look. Next year.
yeah, absolutely. And I suppose another thing is, do you have shares in GameStop or GMC?
Oh, stop it. That's wild. That's like CEX over here suddenly just booming, isn't it? It's wild, but it makes sense. Everyone's at home. Everyone's looking for that escapism. Everyone's
Yeah,
kind of cooped up in their cave. Why not?
it's
Why
yeah,
not boom?
it just shows you the power of like social media and stuff that is
Mm,
happening. I'll confess, I got a couple of shares in GMC, and
nice.
it
Is
tanked
it
one
similar to
day. I
GameStop?
lost. Yeah, the GMC is like, yeah, or AMC. It's the cinema guys. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
And
okay.
it tanked one day, and then basically lost it. And I had like about a fiver left, and I put it on, and then like the next day it was like a way up. Do you know what I
Wow.
mean? And it was like, right. And then I get an email from the company saying we're investigating what's going on, and da 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 da. And it was all pretty cool. So we're just
Cool.
waiting to see what this skyrockets through for a laugh. I
Man.
might be able to afford to buy another snack helmet.
How much were they? How much were they
It's,
in Lidl?
20 quid. Do you know
Oh,
what I mean?
shit.
So
Did that come with snacks or without snacks?
no, without snacks. And then there's
No
the
way.
great discussion of what do you put in your snack helmet.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
you know,
So that's awesome. That's awesome.
but yeah. So let's go. I suppose let's have a wee look. So two teams, right? I suppose. Well, we start off the Chiefs. Well, the Chiefs are obviously our returning Super Bowl champions.
Mm,
They haven't had that Super Bowl. This kind of what do they call it? The Super Bowl hangover.
yeah.
14-2 in the regular season. One of those games was essentially all their reserves, and it just shows you even in the last game of the season, in the playoffs. They bring on their secondaries and they pull off what I thought was quite an interesting game. I genuinely thought the Browns were going to have them in that game, but anyway, they're through. They're into the Super Bowl. Mahomes is back. His tough toe is better. He's not got concussion, or at least that's what they're all telling us.
There we go. It might be a Ronaldo France '98 thing again, isn't it?
Yeah. I know. How many fingers am I holding up? You're a unicorn. That's close enough. Get back out.
We pay too much. Jesus Christ.
We give you a cortisone injection in your foot.
We'll find out after the game. The game.
So we'll run through, stats are stats, but we'll run through what we think. What was the Bucks? What were the Buccaneers weren't the favourites to go through it because it was the Packers.
They had a crazy run. So they lost 1, 2, 3, 4 regular season games. So they came off a bye week in week 13. Then they had 4 games back to back, which they won. So they beat the Vikings, the Falcons, the Lions, and then the Falcons again to finish 11-5. So that kind of run there. Then 3 more. So the wild card after that, divisional playoff after that, and then the conference. So they're on an amazing run. Brady's got them firing. Obviously, they took a massive chance on him. Everyone's saying, is it Belichick or Brady? That's the magic. Clearly, on the field is just as important as off the field in this sport, and you got to deliver. So he's obviously delivered for them. Both sides of the ball, they're a great team. So they're on a great run. As you say, obviously, Chiefs are, they did it last year. They've not succumbed to the curse. They're ready to go. So as we said beforehand in the green room, it's like Real Madrid, Barcelona. Both teams have had a nice time to rest and prep for the game. They played each other earlier in the season, and it was what, the field goal, 3-point difference.
3 points, yeah. 3 points of difference. And
I
mean, you can't really say that either team in that game were let down. Do you know what I mean? They maybe had a few issues, in certain positions, which they have addressed. Both coaches kind of know each other's system, and they do sort of play a very similar system. Do you know what I mean? Which is quite interesting. They both have deep threats. So I suppose if you go back and you look at the Belichick era, they sort of he's always allowed Brady to be a system quarterback and have a 4-option out. So he always has his running back out in the scream if he's not passing off the ball, and then he's got a kind of a short, a medium, and a long, and then you start adding guys like Gronkowski in and all these other things, and you start doing advanced plays. But I think Tom Brady, there's something crazy about Tom Brady, like his average throw or his average things like 8 yards or something like that. So it's always over the middle. Just move the chains down the line.
It works.
It works. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, and what Tampa Bay are very, very brilliantly done is replicate that system for him. But they've gave him, I would say, arguably the best wide receiving core and running back core he has ever had in his career. Because, you're sitting there with Evans, Godwin, Miller, who is essentially on the bench for the vast majority of it.
And does wonders, Obviously, Mr. Antonio Brown, the clown.
Yeah, AB, and then he's and there's another thing. Brown comes back, has all these issues, and basically says the only guy I want to play with is Tom Brady. I'm not playing with anyone else. That's it. I'm only playing with him. And he gets it. But on the flip side of the coin, he's not having his outbursts. He's not losing his temper. If he's sitting on the bench. If he's on, he's on. He's working the system, and he's probably playing one of the best seasons so far of his career. Do you know what I mean? Not like when he was brilliant with the Steelers, but what I'm saying is recently he seems to be really toeing the line. And I suppose that's a respect from Brady, giving him his chance. They've also got, who else have they got? Their backfield is crazy.
Jones.
And then who's the other tight end? Who's the other tight end? They've got they've got Gronk, and then they've got the other guy.
Oh, what's his name? He's got a weird name.
There's a couple of them. There's what do you call him? There's a big, maybe someone will comment on it, but there's the other guy who was there before Gronk came along.
His name
he was thinking about leaving.
Is it Bray?
No. He sort of
I've
plays
got
a kind
Bray,
of on the
okay,
slot.
Hudson.
No,
I've got the four. Let's have a look.
it will come back to me.
So there's
OG.
Auclair, Bray, Gronkowski, Hudson. Are the four that I've got here on the official
Well,
roster.
he must be a wide. He must be an out and a wide receiver then.
So
There's
receivers:
Goodwin Evans,
Brown,
Miller,
Evans, Goodwin,
Brown.
Johnson, Mickens, Miller, and Watson. Justin Watson.
No, there's someone else. He may have been injured, but anyway, it's like Hooper. It's not Hooper. It's something else. But anyway, so they're pretty solid. Their line's good. I suppose we were chatting about it in the green room a wee bit. My biggest surprise with the Buccaneers, and we'll go on to the Chiefs. I don't know how you feel about it, but my biggest surprise with the Buccaneers was their defense. Do you know what I mean? Which seemed to have come out of not nowhere, because when you start looking through it, you think, oh,
there are great players there. Yeah, why didn't we see this coming?
But I suppose my thing about the Buccaneers defense was a lot of it was, oh, I didn't realize he played for them. I thought he was playing for.
That's what I saw when I saw Dominican Sue, and I was just like, I thought he was elsewhere. Why did he end up there?
Yeah.
But it seems like there was a
around.
plan. There was a plan unfolding that they're prepping. I don't know how far afield they knew about the whole Brady acquisition, but they were planning to max it out at the right time so they could get both sides of the ball firing. And you got to give credit to the general manager and the back office team for getting it done. General Manager Jason Licht, Licht. I don't know how you want to pronounce that, but yeah, he's the guy apparently. So, and the Glazers, the Americans, Glazers obviously put the money up and got it done, got it signed and sealed.
The interesting thing about that defense as well is, that the young rookie linebackers at White who's come in,
White, amazing.
Highlight reels and then you've got G Baker and JPP. Matthew, the strong safety. You've got all these guys sort of coming back at the right time, and Big Vita Vea came back last week, who'd been off mostly. And now here's the crazy thing about him was last game he wasn't supposed to be playing that many snaps, and he looked absolutely phenomenal. And not only did he look absolutely phenomenal, but he completely held back that Green Bay line. Do you know what I mean?
That's a good line as well. Yeah.
That is a really important, I think, a really kind of important addition this late in the season, as in for the Super Bowl, that could give them the edge. I mean, I know Kansas City, they decided, which if I was their coach, I would be absolutely flipping at this, but they all decided they needed a haircut for the big day.
Yeah, it was the guy.
So go and get a haircut. Anybody check if the barbers get COVID? It's the test's coming. It's coming.
Yeah,
so straight away
done some tests probably just to make sure everyone comes back negative.
So centre Kilgrove and wide receiver Robinson, they haven't practiced. Do you know what I mean? Because they are on COVID policy. Although they're supposed to be back for Sunday, they should be okay for Sunday. But that to me would be very, very, very worrying because
100%.
Everyone's very hush on that side of things. But you would hate to hear on Saturday morning you wake up and Mahomes or somebody's on COVID policy or something because
the game will be over, isn't it? Yeah.
You have to lock these guys down. Do you know what I mean? So
one more week, just get one more week, and you wear a bloody helmet to play. Like, why do you
exactly? Do you know what I mean? I'd be saying, what are you doing? Like, honestly.
When you get the interview at the end of the game, what are you going to do now? I'm going to go see my barber. That's all you got to do. You don't have to go to Disneyland. It's closed.
It's not happening. So yeah, I suppose we were sort of chatting about it. It's such a close one to call this. Both teams have deep threats. Both teams have slot receivers. Both teams have epic tight ends who can change a game in a second. I mean, Kelsey has broken, I think, nearly every damn record this year under the sun when it comes to tight ends. Do you know what I mean?
Was it Cameron Brate you were talking about? Cameron Brate?
No,
No,
it'll
not
come back
really.
to me who it is.
Mm.
If I had Madden on, I'd have it on a team in Madden. Do you know what I mean? So, um, but I tell you, I suppose it's important to say that the Buccaneers did actually lose to the Chicago Bears this year. So we'll move on.
Well, I'm just an agent. They're not my team, the Bucks. You know, I'm an Eagles guy. Fly Eagles fan. Oh,
Uh,
mate.
well, we'll chat about that towards the end because
Mm,
there seems to be some very, 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 very interesting talk coming out of Philadelphia about their
you need to
quarterback
score me, man.
situation and
Yeah,
how our
it's Hurts and
quarterback
Wentz, right?
situation.
Mm,
So there's a rumor going around I heard today, right, that
mm.
Carson Wentz is out of Philadelphia, right?
Wow, big
And the
deal.
number one phone call has come down from Pace in
Mm,
Chicago, and the
wow,
chat is Foles in a second for Wentz.
wow, that's mad. That's
Foles in
mad.
a second for Wentz because apparently Foles wants to go back to Philly, and I think everybody there's
Oh,
OJ
as a number
Howard is the
two,
guy.
or is Hurts coming in as number one, or is he still sitting and waiting for his chance?
I have
Not
a
sure.
funny feeling you're looking at possibly Nick Foles has 1 year
Slug it
left in his
out.
career. I think he's going to go back
Serious?
to Philly. Yeah, he's only signed a
He's
two
only
year.
got,
He only signed a 2 year contract with the Bears.
ah,
Um, so and he's getting to that age. Do you know what I mean?
go
But
back to
anyway,
where I know. Yeah.
yeah. OJ Howard was the guy I was What I was thinking about the Buccaneers tight end.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? So, so so what else can we? So we've talked about defensive. Yeah, I suppose if we look at the two quarterbacks, so Patrick Mahomes is through 4,740 yards, 38 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's got 108.2 passer rating or QB rating, and
Mm,
he's an 82.90 QBR. And there's some other stat I noticed floating around that what is it? He's got the out of all quarterbacks on a deep ball, he has got the lowest. Oh, I can't remember what it's called.
check down
It's
rating.
that. Yeah,
He's
check
a
down.
check down rate.
Yeah. So I
Mm,
mean, and then there's Tom Brady, who is also throwing everybody had sort of wondered in the last couple of years with the Patriots is Tom Brady's arm failing like Drew Brees.
mm.
Is he not? Uh, you know, he's what 43
It's crazy.
million years of age.
It's crazy, yeah, that he's still just able to do it. He's just
Yeah,
able to do it. Yeah.
I genuinely think this Super Bowl out of all of them, and when you look at teams before and you've seen the Rams, you think, oh right, okay, there's the Rams and stuff, a massive defensive Super Bowl. This
Mm,
team here, these two teams here are stacked on offense, stacked on defense, stacked on special teams. I just
hmm.
can't see this being nothing but a shootout like it was the last
It will
time.
be.
I mean,
Yeah. We'll be
you know what I
watching
mean? So,
highlights of the drop or the catch or the move or the run that won
yeah,
it, and it'll be either probably Mahomes and Hill a connection. Gronk will make a beastly play, yak for 5 yards or something crazy with three
yeah,
guys hanging off him. We'll just be watching the replays as they do. It's going to be like a movie again. And I
yeah.
think that's what everyone kind of wants. They want it to be like kind of even, a bit of both, because I normally make it to about halftime before I start falling asleep. And I think there was the massive one where the Patriots came back against, I think it was the Hawks or
Falcons.
the Falcons, yeah. And I went to
Yeah.
sleep at half time, woke up in the morning, and I was fuming, missed the comeback of the century. But obviously this year I got my media commitment, so I'm going to try and make the whole game.
Yeah.
But no, it'll be interesting. It'll be
Do you
interesting.
know what was interesting? That my old boy, right, who used to play for the Glasgow Lions, he's been an American
Mm,
football fan for years. That half time that game, he turned around and says to me, I think they're gonna come back. He says, I think they're gonna win it. And I went,
yeah.
shut up. They're 20 something odd down, three
Oh,
down. Like
that,
he's good, but he's not that good. And at the end
yeah.
of it, we were all shaking our heads and we are all going, can't actually believe that. I said, I can't
Mm,
actually believe you called it. And funnily enough, he says it was a look in his eye he saw at
mm,
half time. And he said the same thing about last year when the Chiefs played the 49ers and they went sort of a behind. He
mm,
says he saw a look that Mahomes gave Kelsey and
Yeah,
he's like,
we're gonna do
this isn't
this. Yeah,
over.
it's not over.
This isn't over.
Do you know what?
This is
They've been in
they're
so
going to
many
win
games.
this.
Yeah, they've been in so many games because three scores is only two
Mm,
stops. That's not a lot.
yeah,
21 points
no,
is not a lot. If you can get on your job, get everyone firing again, you can turn games around. And again, I think in my career, like even playing, you've been in games where you thought, you know what is this? Like we had a game
mm,
against Bristol that we almost came back and won it on the last play. Ref said we stepped out, whatever. But that feeling when you just like you've got it back from the end
mm,
of like when you're in nowhere and you're thinking it's over. So yeah, any of these games can be turned in quarters, in
yeah.
drives, in big chunk plays, in onside kicks. Like, the sport is that dynamic that you can only talk about it so much. You just got to anticipate it and get in there and have some fun watching the game because it is going to be one of those games, and it's a great matchup. It's a great matchup for me.
Do you know if you look at the Bucks and you think, there's a kind of, I suppose, love them or hate them. Do you know what I mean? To win 7
Mm,
Super Bowls and to be in, so many in 10 years and all this kind of
yeah.
idea, it's a crazy stat. I mean, you have to kind of
Hmm.
take your hat off to them. And as you spoke about earlier about the divorce between
Yeah.
Belichick
Hmm.
and him, then
I think Brady's
obviously,
got to take it. It has to be Brady because he's out there
well,
doing it. I think.
I would say no to that, right? Because Brady was essentially brought in and said, "Look, give us what you want," right? So
Mm,
that's fair enough. And it's more difficult for Belichick then to take a team who was about to essentially go on a
mm,
rebuild anyway, and make
mm.
an impact this year. Now they've got good draft position, they've got good cap space, and there's some stuff going on
So
behind the
we'll
scenes
see
that we
what
never
he
know
does
about.
next year. Then you think definitely
Yeah,
next year, then he's gonna do it.
yeah. If they
But
pay,
what are they doing? They're sticking with Cam Newton.
no, he'll move away from Cam Newton.
Serious.
I actually thought they went for Matthew Stafford. I thought he would be
Wow.
quite good quarterback. And there's this crazy thing they were chatting about. I seen a whole load of stuff, and
Mm,
through the sort of a Bears thing through the years, and they were chatting about Mitchell Trubisky, and they said,
okay.
the crazy stat or a crazy thought that he'll leave, go to the Patriots, and become the next big quarterback. Do you know what I mean? If he gets a decent coach that knows how to work him. But do you know
Yeah.
the crazy thing is, see when you go back and look at Tom Brady and you look at his start, his career 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years in, and you
Mm,
actually look at that kind of thing, like it's the same with Sam. It's the same with like Sam Darnold. He could leave the Jets and go to the Patriots, and next minute he'll be winning a Super Bowl because
yeah, it's true.
Belichick will build a
Make it
team
work. Yeah.
around him. Do you know what I mean? Rather than
That's a
try to
fair
make
shot.
him work with a team.
So
So
you think
I mean,
Brady's taking a bit of Belichick with him on going about
yes,
his business rather
oh,
than
you have to be.
him making Belichick's system work? Well, again, that'll be Belichick again. So yeah, the coach obviously has a massive, massive, massive role. But I
He
don't know.
has well,
It still
yeah.
needs to be delivered on the field in the moments.
Mm.
But again, if in your mind you've run it in practice so many times that it becomes like Brady's almost a robot, and then Belichick's the program. Is that what you're trying to say? Like that's what's
I think,
driving it.
I mean, Tom Brady at this precise moment in time should be leaving his job and going into coaching anyway. I mean, he is an
Yeah,
offensive
yeah,
coordinator on the
by
field.
nature. Hmm.
I mean, no one's
He
going to
doesn't.
turn
He's
around
not
and
an
argue with
athlete.
him.
Yeah, he's not an athlete like
If
that. He doesn't leave the pocket at it really, unless he has to
no,
be.
but I mean, he has that drive and stuff. But when he sits and he looks at a defense and he changes the play, no one's going to
Mm,
argue with him. Do you know what I mean?
no,
Because
of course not.
he saw
Yeah.
something that nobody else saw.
Hmm.
I think that I think it's just I think there was a few essential things that he needed for this
Mm.
to work. Do you know
O
what I
line,
mean? And
a decent O
the
line.
the O line and Gronk. I think he always
Yeah,
likes to have Gronk
comfort.
there,
Yeah,
and you have a connection with someone like that. I think that's it's a bit like Mahomes and
it's
Kelsey.
one less
You know,
read he has to make because he knows on that play he will be where he needs to be. He doesn't even need to look at it. And it's like Mahomes throwing all those no look passes and the rest of that. You know him
yeah,
and Kelsey will link up. He knows when he scrambles out of the pocket, cross body wherever, your guy will be where he is. Good hands,
yeah.
good body. Get it to him, let him hold it. Safe catch. Press that X button. Press that X button. He's down on the ground safe. Like get your yards. You're right. You're right.
Did you know Gronk and I think it's Gronk and Kittle are the same age?
No
Which is
way.
just it's either Gronk or Kittle or Gronk and Kelsey. They're the
That's
same age,
wild.
but when you see them run, you think that Gronk's about 20 years older than him? Do you know
I
what I mean? Just with the
know.
injuries and
He's a
stuff.
unit. He's like a block.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I mean, yeah, I think. No, when you're saying about the sort of the system that's ingrained, I mean, what comes across as well, and you have to remember as well, when Brady was at the Patriots, he wasn't a 50 million a year quarterback. He wasn't a 40 million a year quarterback. He wasn't a 30 million a year quarterback. And he was probably the greatest quarterback around at that point.
Shoot.
Arguably the greatest point. Now, if you look at Mahomes signed that massive £500 million deal over 10 years or whatever it was, but it's structured in such a way that he gets his money over a time period, but the team also gets their
Money that
money,
he makes. Yeah, of course. 100%.
right? And
Superstar
again, what
class.
was really interesting with that whole team mentality and Andy Reid and everything else, and Andy Reid, Belichick, and Bruce Arians are all very similar the way they think. But not only that, every other player for that team followed in that similar mantra. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know what I'm worth, but I'm willing to take this, and I'm willing for you to structure it so we can stay under the cap. So then it doesn't become about the money. It becomes about the success.
Unity.
It becomes about
Yeah.
the unity, the team,
Yeah.
and we're talking about young guys coming through the team and rookies, and you've got Brady, and you've got all these guys on his team in this, and then and bringing Brown back, same
It's the
thing
balance.
again.
It's the balance.
It's a
Yeah,
unity. They want to play for each other,
They're
and
playing
and
not just for the check. Yeah.
that can't be beaten. Now, if you start looking through all the other teams that have got there, I would arguably say that the last 4 teams in both divisions have a very similar mentality. The Browns are like that because they have been through the trenches together. They've been at the shit, 0-16 to where they are now. The Packers are very similar. I think a lot of those guys in that team, although they're getting paid well, they all want to play for Aaron Rodgers.
How many years has he got left?
Aaron Rodgers. Do you know something? We discussed this. Me and Owen discussed this on on Sunday. I'm not a great Aaron Rodgers fan. I don't wear this hat for it. But there comes a point, you've got to remember that the Packers are a publicly owned team. They don't have owners. And if you sit down and look at that in a business and you say you have had 11 years to win us a Super Bowl and you haven't done it, then you're going to actually start asking questions. Is this the right guy for the organisation?
Where do we have to go next? Yeah.
Well, where do they go next, though? Because they changed the defense. They changed the line. So they get rid of all their line. They get bigger guys in. They get, a completely different line in. And then it was the running backs. So they get new running backs. Then it was the wide receivers. And he has 3 of the best wide receivers in the league. Do you know what I mean? Scanlon, Adams, and what do you call him? Lazard. 3 of the best running back wide receivers in the league. Plus, he's got a good tight end. He's got 2 good tight ends. Plus,
They're going to start pointing the finger soon, right?
Well, but I think we discussed this a lot, and what we were saying about teams that were in ruts. Okay, so the Patriots were at their peak of their dynasty, and then they start to come down. As they're starting to come down and finding it harder and harder and harder, Brady makes a move and he goes to the Buccaneers, right? So and he's turned it into a success. So is it new? We're saying it's the same system, blah blah blah. But is it that it's a new way forward? Do you know what I mean? A new house, a new way of thinking, a fresh start. Break that rut, get out of it. Same thing with the Lions. The Lions, Matthew Stafford, who's essentially from what he was in college, is massively underachieved for what he was supposed to do. Now he's made the jump to the Rams. Out of all the teams in the NFL, I did not see him signing for the LA Rams. And when it actually happened, I thought to myself, wow, they're a seriously dangerous team next year. Watch out for Los Angeles.
It always takes time, I mean?
Eh?
It will take time for that to kind of...
No, I don't think so. And I tell you why. I think the system is there, but the system is there, but they had the wrong quarterback. Now I think they've got the right quarterback who can fit in any system. Because as
Mm,
much as he has underperformed or has been sold short, shall we say, by the Detroit Lions,
mm,
um, the Rams aren't going to do that. Do you know what I mean? And they
mm.
have a defense that can keep offenses
Yeah,
off.
that's true.
Do you know what I mean?
Take the pressure off a little bit.
So
Room to work.
yeah, so next year is very interesting. The question will
Mm,
be is if Brady wins on Sunday, does he play for another year? And if he does play for another year, will he be
mm.
successful?
Is he signed, or is he signed for Bucks the 1 year, just a year?
I don't know what his contract is. Do you know what I mean? It might be one or two, maybe 1 or 2 years.
Option. It must be one with an option. You're not going to sign him for less than that. I'd say it's probably
Yeah,
got one.
do you know what I mean? Um,
So
but then look at everybody has around them with the cap space.
it's
Can they
true.
sign everyone again?
It's true.
Um, you know, there's a lot of old bodies on that team as well. I mean, it is like the last one out. Do you know the last the
Yeah.
it's like and that's another thing. You look at the other team. The other team, it's the Chiefs are a lot of young guys. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it's like the old guard going out and playing all the young guys. It's a bit like the longest yards. Do you know? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's a
And
bit
now
like that.
that Chiefs team, if they're all following Mahomes' lead and signing these deals, wanting to
Yeah,
play for the organization, they're going to be a problem in the next 4 or 5 years for that reason. They're going to have this pack of guys, this wolf pack of guys that are all gelling, and they're going to be a nice core and a backbone for a squad. So
yeah.
yeah, man, let's see.
I think as well, the AFC, I mean, for years we've always talked about the NFC being the stronger division.
Mm, hmm.
But that is never shown in the Super Bowls. And people say, well, that's because the Patriots had an easy run. They were guys
Mm,
weren't as injured, they weren't as knocked up.
yeah.
You've played, you know what you feel like day one of the season and day seven,
Mm,
day 365 of a season. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, and you could argue that. I would say now, if any, the both divisions are very, very similar. I mean, you can
Mm,
count 4 or 5 teams that could have easily have beaten the Chiefs on their day and put them out on a playoff run. And
no.
similar with the Bucks. I mean, the Bucks weren't the favourites to go through to this. It was the Packers were the favourites,
No, of course. But Bucks
and
again
they
were
flew it.
had a great run at the end of the season. Probably that no one would have predicted. Someone would have put a loss
Yeah,
in there somewhere. They won 8 straight games to get to where they are now. I think it was, and it's 7. I think Bucks
yeah,
is on a 2 year. Brady's on a 2 year though. 25
2 years.
million, 25 mil a year. If I'm correct from what I'm reading
But
from
see, to be honest,
ESPN.
that's absolutely nothing for a guy of that caliber.
To be
Do you know what I
fair,
mean?
and the fact that he's delivered straight away and taken the team to his first ever Super Bowl is chump change, isn't it? Any team, any establishment will pay that. To be fair,
Well,
so
see if you actually go away and look at other contracts. Dak
mm,
Prescott wanted 30 million a year.
what?
I know who I'd be taking. Um,
He's an injury now. Got injured, right?
yeah,
Prescott
well, the ankle's away.
smacked
I mean, it'll be interesting to see where he
ankle.
goes.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? If they're talking about if anywhere I thought Stafford would have went, it was probably there. Do you know what I
to
mean?
fill that hole. Yeah, it's waiting
Do you
for
know
it.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Because even if that comes back next year, he's still not going to be 100%. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, but you look at other like if you start moving around. I mean, other guys like Cousins gets paid more than that. I'm pretty sure Wentz
Serious.
gets paid more than that. I'm pretty sure Nick Foles gets paid more than that. Do you
That's
know?
mental. Fair enough. I don't play enough Madden, man. I don't look at enough contracts.
You know what I mean? But
It's
no, I
crazy.
must. So yeah, so Chiefs Bucks. I mean, it's been an interesting season. As you say, the Bucks have maybe struggled to find their feet, especially that first half of the season, where the Chiefs did roll with it and roll with it really
Yeah.
well. I mean, they
Again,
are the number one team. Do you know what I mean?
the
14 and
Bucks
2.
were the Bucks were 3-2 at one point, and obviously at that point in the season, you start to think, "Oh, what's it gonna be like? How's this gonna work out?" But then they got
Yeah,
to what 6-2, so they went on a run of 3 games, and then they had the bye week. I think their bye week was quite well timed. So they had it at week 13. And again, that was coming off the back of a loss. That was off the back of
yeah,
the loss to Kansas City. So
yeah,
maybe that gave them time to refocus and resettle. And I think in this world, we do have bye weeks in this country. And sometimes
yeah,
you need that time to just kind of focus and reset, because they come back against the Vikings and never lost since week 14 and could finish the season not losing for a whole
Yeah.
almost a third of the season and in the postseason. And again, that's going to
I mean,
take you into the
that's the
next
other
season.
thing as well. I mean, people were sort of saying Brady never does well when he doesn't get the number one seed. Well, he's
Nah,
played through two wild
exactly,
card games and a divisional.
exactly,
Do you know
massive,
what I mean? So,
massive
you
news.
know, I actually think it's really strange what you're saying about bye weeks, because
Mm.
I think historically, at times when you look at it, right,
Mhm.
teams seem to either do really well from bye weeks,
Or
as in
crumble.
they completely crumble. It's
Mm.
like they're doing really well before it, and you think like the Bears are quite like that in a way. If they're playing well and then it's bye week, you're like, oh no, why bye week? Do you know what I mean? Because they just seem to lose momentum, and it takes them like 2 or 3 games to get going again. Do you
I
know what I
think
mean?
COVID
So,
this year has obviously limited what players can do and what they're going to do anyway. But it is
well, I think.
important for the teams to sort themselves out.
Do you know something? I think COVID proved one thing more than anything else this season. I think before we wrap, we talk about wrapping up and what have you, but COVID proved that preseason is absolutely
Imperative,
essential for this
yeah,
sport,
injuries and all that stuff is ridiculous.
because you think how many by week 5, how many
Mm.
first line team starter guys were out,
Mm.
gone, out for the season,
It's
not coming
crazy.
back.
Mm.
You had Tariq Cohen, you had
McCaffrey,
Saquon
was it
Barkley,
McCaffrey that went as well?
Christian McCaffrey was out.
Jeez, and these are
Um,
these are quality players,
do you know what I mean?
quality
These are
athletes.
big names. These were big. Who else you had? Mostert was out. Jimmy Garoppolo was out.
Jesus.
I mean, the list goes on, and
And
that's
that's
before you even start getting.
how much money an athlete is that on just sitting there just festering and getting paid on previous efforts. It's crazy.
Yeah, but we were chatting about, and we were saying training, because obviously you play, your legs down. You're chatting about, you can go to the gym, you can go out for a run, you can do all these
Mm,
things, but it's not the same,
it's not.
and it just shows you, these 1 quarters, week 1 preseason, the 4 weeks of preseason, you get your knocks, you get your moves, you get your body used to those
Mm,
sort of acute angles, the tackles, all these
that's
other
it.
things that you're putting up with. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean? Um, and it just showed you, without that, 4 weeks of the gym and limited practice, suddenly
yeah,
all these
dangerous.
major names were out. Via, there's another one. Via, all
He
the
spent most of the
Via was
season on
out.
IR. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the Bears lost
Mm,
a couple of big names. Um, the list goes on. I mean, I remember thinking back about week 6. I thought, if this goes on, there will be no one playing by the end of the year. Do you know
it's
what I mean?
crazy.
It's like, oh my god, it is mad. Plus all the
Mm.
other stuff
And
as
they
well.
do it, with the premium stuff, the premium facilities, physicians.
Mm,
We're only human. That's that when it boils down to it. We're only human, and we're victims
absolutely.
of our own habits. And yeah, as you say, you can't replicate the demands of the game if you're not playing
No.
the game. I was watching the Hard Knock stuff, and they
Yeah.
were all itching to get into pads and running around and running into each other and collisions and putting weight on like themselves. They were itching to do it. And again,
Yeah.
us players, and shout out to all the Brit ballers that are, itching to
Absolutely.
get back out there. Let's hold on to hope that the season will come back in some shape or form. But yeah, when you're itching to do what you've been doing I've been playing for 13 years. And
Yeah.
I haven't had a break like this. Like, everyone's kind of having what would be an injury break for most players to be out for a whole
Yeah.
season. But yeah, so
I
mentally and
suppose
physically, it's a
the
lot.
other thing is as well is, because you are playing amateur,
Mm,
being out for a season, it's a massive thing,
mm,
because life goes on outside the game. So,
exactly.
you could be sitting there thinking to yourself, do you know what? I've played now 13, 14 years. I was going to give it one more season, but actually now that I'm not playing
Are you a
and life,
telepath? Are you a telepath? Get out of my head. Get out. It's
you get
crazy.
back on that field and you bust
I
your
will do.
ass.
No, no, no. I will do. I will do. I have to. Even if it's just to kick off and then just throw my hat in the ring and say, "Yep, that's me. I'm a special team, a full time."
But
It's
you know
hard.
something? I completely see where you're coming from, because, like,
Mm.
me and my brother, right, we were to trek to Nepal for my 40th, or
Oh,
just
sweet.
after my 40th, right?
Mm,
We're trekking through Nepal to Everest Base Camp. So we
mm,
started training about 18 months before. and then we trained and we rest and then we trained and then we were all gearing up basically for the big push
Mm.
for April. And my brother was over. We were training at Superbowl sort of a time, and we were doing like crazy things like circuits of weights. I mean, you're talking about 40, 50 kilos, reps, and you're talking about 200 reps. Differently. So it was a massive training
Mm.
exercise. Going big hill walks, all these other things, try to get your body, try to get that reserve for the
Conditioning,
altitude.
yeah.
And then it's like COVID comes along and it's like, no. So
No.
then you're down, and then it's like, well, I'll tell you what, we'll move it from April, May to August, and then we should be okay. So
Mm.
again, a wee bit of a rest, and then you start training again, and then August comes along, it's like no. So then we move it to this time this year, and it's a no. Do you know what I mean? And by about 6 months ago, like completely burnt out, completely knackered,
That's it.
not
That's
wanting
it.
to do anything,
That's it.
exhausted, and you haven't gone to recovery mode. And I suppose this is why you see athletes and you see Olympians, American football, and they talk about the recovery period and their
Mm.
downtime and their off
It's a
season.
massive,
And
massive thing. Massive.
it's huge. Like you don't
Mm.
realize how huge that commitment is or what that's entailing in your body. And
Mm.
especially like as I was saying at the time, I'm only getting fitter, and every time I get fitter to get to the level where I was wanting to get, where you feel like you've trained, like you've properly trained,
Yeah.
you're up in everything, your weights, your reps, all these other things. And then, as you quite like to say, if you're off for a year, the thought of going
You
back to that
slide back down the ladder and having to go
and
through
the
all that
eating and
again.
everything, do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's wild.
And
Yeah.
so it's going to be it is going to be a big shift for you guys. Do you know what I mean? So,
Mm. And it's a
so what
shout
do you
to the
think?
pros. It's a shout to the pros, to be fair. The ones that have kept themselves fit, the ones that have got it done, the ones that have given us something to talk about and watch, and
Yeah,
teams that have put on the games. I think there's going to be 22,000 fans at the
yeah,
60,000 capacity stadium, which again, they're going to be buzzing there. Even the staff that are
yeah,
really cleaning the toilets are going to be buzzing just to be out there doing the
yeah,
job, having work. Do you know what professional sport is keeping? I know men definitely, a lot of men somewhat saying, because if professional sport shut down, oh my God, nah, where would that energy be? Where would that, what would men talk about subliminally?
yeah,
Do you know what I
absolutely.
mean? If they're
Yeah.
not talking about sport and like cussing each other's football teams and soccer teams and rivalries, it is a massive institution. And
Oh
again,
yeah. I
having a
mean,
Super Bowl, it's great.
well, good thing as well at Superbowl. Obviously, I work in NHS, so 7,500 healthcare workers getting free tickets to the Super Bowl, which is a massive
No way.
thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Massive thank
It
you to
went
the
over to the
NHS.
States,
Yeah,
or it went
yeah.
over to the States this year.
No, no, not me. What I'm saying is that's what they're doing. They gave out 7,500 free tickets to their healthcare workers. Do you know what I mean? So,
Okay. Oh, the
and
healthcare workers in America.
mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's
Although
excellent.
I've seen a couple of posts from people basically saying they've got tickets and they're heading over. Do you know what I
No way.
mean? So
Oh, wow.
that
Fair enough.
they're over, they've headed over, whether they've got the tickets through some sort of
Mm,
organisation or something. But
if
there've
it's
been,
a work
I've seen one
capacity,
guy
yeah.
who said he was quarantining there for 10 days and then he's going to the Super Bowl. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like that would have been
that's
class. I
mad.
would have done that.
Definitely.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
If you're allowed, of course, yeah, everyone would seize that, being able to do stuff like that. But I
It would
don't
be
know.
nice to get over to any sort of a game. The last game, well, the last one I went to was the London game. The Bears versus the Raiders. Do you know what I mean? So,
Okay, yeah, yeah. I
um,
think I was at that one as
do
well.
you know
Was
what I
that at
mean? So
Wembley
it'd be
or was
nice.
that at Tottenham?
No, Tottenham. Do you know what
Tottenham.
I
All
mean?
right.
So,
I mean, I've been to a Tottenham one.
yeah, I've
Um,
got the
have you
season
been to
tickets
Tottenham and
for.
Wembley? So you've been to
No, I
both?
haven't been to Wembley. See, I got the
Been to
season
Wembley?
tickets for Tottenham. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
So I I
Wembley's
left it. Do you know
Wembley's
what I mean?
class.
So,
Wembley's class, I
I
must
want to
say.
get to Wembley as well. Do you know what I
Mm,
mean? So, the problem is with me coming over, you have to almost do it like 3 weekends in a row, which is a big
true.
ask. Do you know what I mean? With work and
True to
stuff.
come
You know
down and everything. Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So,
Wembley's a spectacle. Is decent. It's
yeah.
decent. So I do volunteering. So I'll either be volunteering to coaching schools or
Hmm.
volunteering on the media days for the team. So they do like the media day, normally involving schools or football clubs or rugby clubs.
Right.
and they'll do their training at the facilities. So sometimes they use like London Irish is a good facility, rugby
Mhm.
facility with loads of fields, and they'll do their training there, and then they'll do um, like mingling with the kids who'll be on
Yeah.
station practicing, doing drills and stuff, introducing them to the sport. And again,
Mhm.
we used to get reward tickets for that, so I did that on a
Right.
couple of years. That was amazing. You got to rub shoulders with these guys who are absolute massive superstars back in America, and they come
Yeah.
over here and they just love. For the kids, they'll do it. Do you know what I mean? And again, with adults, a lot of adults over here don't even know who they are, so they used to
Yeah.
be able to go out and have a nice little social in Leicester Square or wherever, and not really get noticed, apart from the fact that they're all 6'7", 6'9", massive guys, and the savvy Joe Bloggs will think, "Hold on a minute, this guy's got a really nice watch on. He's about 10 foot tall. He must be a sportsman." But now I got to look after like alumni guys from the Cardinals and stuff and different teams. I got to kick with Justin Tucker and Sam Cooke. That was awesome. That
That's
was
brilliant.
awesome. Yeah, and yeah, it's just when you meet these guys firsthand and see obviously what they're about, they run a tight ship, man. These teams are
Yeah.
run really really well, and yeah, man, the sport's great, and obviously Sunday we will see the pinnacle of it, and obviously it's going to
Yeah.
be different without like massive stadium atmosphere, but hopefully they'll make it big. Who's the halftime show? Do you know?
The weekend.
Oh no way! Awesome.
Yeah.
That should be all right.
Apparently he's put £7 million of his own money in to make sure that this shows the way he wanted it. Because
Serious.
obviously they've lost a lot of sponsors this year. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
big sponsorships went out the
Pulled
window.
out.
Um,
Mm,
and some of it's been and some of it's for great causes. So Budweiser have
mm.
pulled back on their advertising budgets to basically
Ah,
say we're going to put that money into vaccines. So they've
oh,
opened up
serious.
vaccine centres and
Fair enough.
they're trying to
Fair
get the
enough.
vaccine rolled out. Which
Mm.
again will only help their business and help the sport because the more
It's
people
true.
that are vaccinated, the
More
more
can
we can
go
get
to
back to
sports. Yeah.
some normality. Um,
Budweiser.
the so the weekend's the halftime show. Um, so what was it? There was something I was going to pick up on that you had said. Um, it'll come back to me. It'll come back to me. Do you know what
Yeah,
I
it's
mean?
talking about
So
working the Wembley games and London series.
yeah,
Yeah, the sponsors obviously and all the games not coming over. Again,
yeah,
everyone's missed out on that. The sponsors missed out on that massively because we do it's fever pitch when they come over.
yeah,
It's the TV. It's because obviously the BBC pick it up big time. Obviously Sky, they got Sky NFL. No doubt they would have done a big deal, a big thing about it. If we were
yeah.
running our leagues as well, they might have profiled some of the British teams. But hopefully,
Absolutely, yeah,
fingers
they would have.
crossed.
And then no London games. So again, it's not
Yeah,
all these sort of things. But you know, what I was going to say as well is there's going to be some. Obviously, there's 25,000
plenty.
fans in
Yeah, yeah.
in the stadium. Obviously, we're not going to hear
The
the
atmosphere.
play calls and the audibles and the big hits that we heard all through the season. How
It's
did you
true.
find that? I found that was
I
the
love
most
it. I love
fascinating
it.
thing.
Do you know what? The first time I realized how important that was, I was watching someone stream Madden and they
Yeah,
had their settings, I think the commentator volume down, and you could hear all the trash talking. And I'm
yeah,
thinking, oh my God, they put that in the game. And that stuff gives me
yeah,
goosebumps, man.
yeah,
Like, once you hear someone get, hey, I'm coming after you, man. Da-da-da, all that talking,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
thinking to
absolutely.
myself, and like when I was watching the replays and you're hearing it, oh, you think to yourself, I watched the video today about the Microsoft surfaces that they use at the
Yeah,
game to analyze on the sideline. They
yeah. Next
literally
gen
get the play
stats.
in. Yeah, yeah, they get the
Yeah,
plays in 2 to 3 seconds afterwards. They were showing that how they relay that to the server. And I think to myself, when you hear these guys going at it full speed, professional jargon, all the
mm,
audibles, all that, I loved it. Even with soccer, you can hear the coaches, and that's a
yeah.
constant thing with soccer. They're shouting, "Hey, blah, blah, you know, this and that," and
I love
I
it.
love it. I love it. It makes you feel like you're there, and it makes you realize what's actually going on. So obviously, no
Oh yeah,
offense to the fans that are not fans and the partners that sit there. Oh, why do you even watch this stuff? This boring. It's boring. It's not boring when you understand the depth that the sport's
yeah,
being played to. When you
yeah.
understand what it takes to achieve the things that's being achieved. So, yeah, I love the sounds. I love the sound effects. But hopefully they'll
I
balance
think
it out right.
the first couple of games where they had the no the they didn't have the fake fan noise was thingy,
Yeah.
but I loved watching things. What I've loved this season more than anything else is watching certain plays and then
Mm.
watching the interviews after it or watching the
When they
tapes
talk about it,
and like,
yeah.
what did he actually see there?
Mm.
Classic example, last Bears Packers game, and they talk about running the ball clock down to the last second, and
Mm.
Rodgers sort of picks up. He notices that basically that Robert Quinn and Danny T are having a
They're ready to go.
conversation, and
Uh-huh.
they're in the wrong position, or they're in
No
the wrong
way.
part of the field,
So he snapped
and he
it.
calls the audible for Scanlon to go up rather, and so Adams cuts behind him. He does that sort of a play action, and Scanlon goes right down the middle behind Danny T. Long ball, touchdown.
Yes, I was
But
watching it on. What was I watching it on?
yeah,
It was on the same
but
thing. It
he
was
was
on the same thing about the surfaces because he saw it on the thing, and I think the coach told him to run it again, but make
yeah,
sure the guy makes a move after the play, and then he'll be
yeah.
on a one-on-one, and there'll be a situation. It was Scanner ran for the deep TD as well. Yeah, they were
But
talking
you know
about that
what's
play.
interesting about that is
Mm.
Rogers himself said if there had been the fan noise, he
You wouldn't have
probably wouldn't
noticed
have heard them
the
having that
conversation.
discussion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he wouldn't have heard them really
Ah,
what they were saying, so he wouldn't have got that lead on them, which was
yeah.
really interesting. And then you think to yourself, think of teams like the Seahawks. I mean, the
Mm.
Seahawks haven't played anywhere near. Do you know what I mean? And they talk about the 12th man. The 12th
Hmm.
man is obviously
Yeah,
the
the
fans.
fans. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The noise in Seattle is supposed to be unbelievable, so much
Noisy,
so that you
yeah.
can't hear people think. So
Oh,
there's the 13th fan. So
yeah.
going towards the Super Bowl, these
Yeah.
guys have played a whole season. They've been
Mm.
able to listen and pick up on these, and now they're going
Mm.
back to
It's a
fanland.
leveler. It's
So
a
that,
leveler. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
this.
that's
So
going to be a big player. Like.
when the teams come over here, they
Mm-hmm.
play fan noise in at practice. There's
Yeah,
always
yeah,
noise going. They pump the noise just to get the
yeah,
players used to not being able to hear each other, getting them used to having the on-field voice to be able to talk to
yeah,
each other and call out the players to each other because you don't want to get to the game and then it's a big down. They're like, what did you say? What did you say? What? You don't
yeah,
want
yeah,
that. You want to be able to call the play in the huddle at the right volume so you can hear and the other team can't hear. Obviously, in
yeah,
practice, if you're calling the huddle, you're standing too close or someone's speaking too loud, you're going to say, yo, you lot keep it down. We can hear you from here. In a
yeah.
game, you're right. If you're speaking too loud, the other team's not going to tell you. They're going to take it in and they're going to roast you. And that is Rogers using his brain. Obviously, at the line, you got teams need to be savvy now. They
Mm-hmm.
can't be screaming too much. Obviously, on defense, you can scream what the hell you want. You're going after the ball. People know that. But on offense, you want to keep your audible short, sharp, quick, especially if you're running down the clock and that and you're doing all that stuff. Like, yeah, it's amazing. It's a very, very nuanced, niche part of the sport, that communication angle, because you never know. It could still be an
That's why
issue
I.
on
That's why
Sunday.
I could never play offensive line because people would be calling stuff and I'd be going, "What?
What? the first year I
What?"
played, the first year I played, it was run, pass, left, and right. So two instructions maximum. So run left, pass right, pass left, right. It was simple. Like I was a D lineman going on to O line. D line, you just go get the ball, go get the QB, go get the running back, whatever. And like O line, I was helping out the team. Eventually, I got time to learn the position, learn the techniques, learn that. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, man.
When I played D line, the linebackers used to come up and you'd feel them tapping in the inside of your left leg or
Yeah,
the
which way to
outside.
go? Are you going
You
there? Or
know
do you
what
want
way
me to
you
go
want.
there?
They wanted you to
Yeah,
push.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And it used to be the guy I used to play with. He used to tap if he tapped me 3 times
yeah,
on the left leg. It was pass rush him. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
then he would pull back because he's obviously pulling back, and then I'd know how to pass rush him. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's amazing when you see these wee things happening, even in a
yeah.
professional game. And obviously now we can hear it.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? I actually think I'm going to miss it on Sunday. I think I'm going to miss being able to hear what they're saying. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So,
it's nice, and they're gonna have to deal with it, not being
mm,
able to hear as much. And again, it might make a massive difference. And after the game, if they do bring it up and say, "Yeah, the fans was a big deal," it's like you're gonna be
yeah,
like, "Yeah, I told you so."
it's going
That's
to be.
crazy.
I just so we're near an hour, bud. What do you
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
then? Who do you think? Who have you got your money on?
Do you
Who
know
have
what?
you
You
got your
can't.
AMC stock
I'm
shares on.
thinking the Brady bunch are gonna take it only because I think Mahomes' razzmatazz game
Hmm.
can, on a big stage and in a big moment, can fall apart because he likes to break it up and quickly put it back together again.
Yeah,
Brady
yeah,
kind of has the weapons, keeps it tidy, gets it done, and he has the focus to come back again and deal with adversity. I think Mahomes, if it gets on top, he might lose his rag and the event might get a bit on top of him. But
yeah.
yeah, I'll stick with the Brady bunch just because I tossed the coin and I got them from my research as well. So yeah. What about you? What are you
Well,
saying?
yeah. Do you know? I think it's going to. Funnily enough, me and the brother were playing Madden. We've been playing the sort of a Chiefs versus the Bucks. But we played sort of through the playoffs, and then we
Yeah.
played it. And we've played it a couple of times, and the Bucks seem to win. I think for sheer firepower, I
Mm,
think the Bucks have it. I
yeah.
think the way the way it'll tell is, can JPP and Baker and different guys and Clark and what have you,
Mhm.
can they cripple? Do you know what I mean? Can the Bucks defense get to Mahomes? And if they
That's
can
gonna be
get to him,
they'll rattle him.
that's
They'll rattle him.
that's
They could
do you know
rattle
what I
him or
mean?
injure him. Who knows what his injury, turf toe, really was.
Yeah.
It might just be
I
a
think if they can
symptom.
shut him down, if they get a good couple of sacks on him,
Mm,
I think what will happen is, and do you know what would be really interesting to see? Because that I don't think Brady ever does anything without a thought behind it. Those
mhm.
three deep balls he threw. Now he threw a beautiful ball to Scotty Miller. He threw a beautiful ball to Chris Good.
Yeah.
But those three deep balls that he threw, those interceptions on last
Mm,
week, or the week before last, sorry.
mhm.
There's a reason behind that. There's some reason behind that, and I just have this feeling that we'll probably see it on Sunday night. Do you know what I mean? This kind
Definitely.
of big deep ball, but
The
do
plays
you know?
there, isn't it? Mm,
Yeah, I mean it's a hard one to call, but I have a funny feeling, and to be honest with you, as much as Seven, you have to admire the guy. It could be the
mm.
last outing for quite a lot of those guys in that team. Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
in the box a lot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true.
Do you know
That's
what I
true.
mean? I think the Chiefs, even if they lost,
Mm,
nobody's going to really, apart from the Browns and the Bills next year, nobody's going to really tackle them. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot
mm.
of guys there that'll come back, get their second Super Bowl ring. I'd like to see guys like maybe Antonio Brown get a Super Bowl ring. These kind
Imagine.
of
Oh
guys.
my God. That'll
Do
be
you know what I
mad.
mean?
He'll be straight
Uh,
onto social media making noise, man.
no, but do you know something? I don't think so. I think that would be the. I think. Do you know?
That might
Do you know
calm
what's
him down.
crazy? Yeah, but do you know what's really crazy? How at times, how at times the NFL actually mimics the scripts of ballers. Do you know?
Yeah, I need to watch up.
No,
I need to catch up on it.
so you've got that character Ricky, and you've got that character Ricky in Ballers, and you look at him, you go,
yeah,
"That's Antonio
it
Brown."
is.
Do you know
It
what
is.
I
It
mean?
is. It is.
you
The
know,
writers know
but
the stories. The writers have heard the stories from the locker rooms, man. They've just put it on
yeah,
ballers.
but I
That's
tell you, I
amazing.
think for someone who and we're chatting about this about players who, and Rodgers really needs to make that decision. Does he move teams and try to go to
Mm,
like any team that can give him a real
yeah,
genuine chance at
don't
Super Bowl?
fester. Don't fester in
Yeah,
the squad. Yeah.
and I think the other thing is as well is that organisation need to move on, but there's so many players out there who you would consider as absolute greats, legends, Hall of Fames. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
They don't have a ring, and
it's true.
they never got that opportunity. Like look at Megatron. Ca- You know,
Calvin Johnson. Yeah.
you know, he
That
didn't
ring
want.
certifies you some TV work as well. You can,
You know,
playoff winner, but
I
Super Bowl winner.
I think someone like that, gave his best years to the Steelers, and then he's
Mm,
the back turned on him a wee bit. I think if he walked away with a ring this year, I think he could retire a happy man. Do you know what I
and yeah,
mean?
and
And
kind of get a little
go,
bit sane and a bit more relaxed and less high intense. Yeah. Question,
And I think,
question. You're a guy that could probably answer this question. I know
yeah,
you like your facts. So these teams have these
uh,
T-shirts whipped out at the end of the game. Champions, Super Bowl champions. Da, da, da,
yeah,
da, da. The
yeah.
team that loses, what happens to their T-shirts? Do they burn them? Do they? Because I think I heard a story once that they send them off to obscure third world countries to be worn. Or I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that was the first story that I heard. Because they'll have them out the back somewhere and they'll
yeah.
just be like, "Yep, van." They'll be in the back of a van. See you later. Get them off site because they're not going to be needed.
I
It's
think,
crazy.
I think somebody had said they were destroyed. I heard the
Mm.
one time they were actually printing them. They start printing them, actually, like printing
Oh,
them,
to actually print.
like
Okay.
like 5 minutes before it or something like that. They're sort of
No
printing them.
way.
And then you see them with the hats and stuff
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
they must have. I mean, it's probably they have it all set, ready to go. And as you
Yeah,
say, they must just go and get destroyed, or they end up in some sort of a, like bargain basement,
yeah.
sort of a
It's crazy.
sort of that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
that's mad.
but, it's interesting. The money that's spent in
Because I don't
rings and
think they're
different.
official brand. I don't think they're branded. Are they branded? I don't
No,
think
no,
they're actually branded. They're just straight. Yeah. Okay.
champion
Cool.
type thing. You know what I mean? So,
Champions. That's mad. Yeah, because I was thinking about it the other day. Because I know in soccer, obviously, they start printing the FA Cup trophy. You see them engraving it, and they get
yeah,
the end of the game and stuff like that. Like, it's a big deal. Like these
yeah,
massive marquee games, they're big deals in players' careers. And again, so for the ones thinking about retiring, for the ones going on with their career, once you say you've won the bowl, like your contract value goes up, your post career
mm,
value goes up, and it's all there. So yeah, well, onwards and upwards for the winners, and hopefully the ones that don't kind of win will get something from the game. You lose, you
absolutely.
learn.
Yeah,
All right,
that's it.
man.
Well,
It's been good.
I think it will be a lot of last outings for the Bucks team.
Mm,
And they would probably be the only team I think to ever win a Super Bowl in their home
yeah,
turf.
in the home turf. Yeah, yeah,
Do
yeah.
you know what I mean? So there's
I
quite a
think
lot to
I
play
think they should
for.
have.
Like,
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. I think the Bucks would be a good vibe. Chiefs had it recently, and they could probably get it again next year if they keep their stuff together. So
I'd say they're on it for the next couple of years. Then the next big. Do you know what I mean? So unless the Bears obviously take them out,
unless.
handily.
Mm.
1985. Like, do you know what I
Was there
mean?
anything
So
Eagles wise you needed to school me on, like, apart from the QB situation?
no, I think. I
That's
mean,
about
the
it.
big thing. I mean, Eagles this year. I think is pretty unfair because they suffered massively from injuries. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you lost Ashawn Jeffries.
Mm,
You've lost a lot of people very on. I think it's unfair for Wentz. His line hasn't been great. He hasn't had
mm,
anybody to throw to, and the running game isn't particularly great. They traded away their running backs. Do you know what I mean? When you look at the team that won the Super Bowl, and you look at
yeah.
a couple of years back, and then you look at where the team is now, it's a massive fall from grace. Do you
Massive.
know what I mean? Um,
Massive.
and I think realistically they're going to have to go on a massive rebuild. Although I
Mm.
must admit, Hurts looks fantastic. He looks the deal. Like, do you know what I mean?
Who hurts?
Aye,
Yeah,
does
yeah.
he looks good?
When Madden was subbing him in for the start of the game, he was number one in the depth chart. I'm thinking, who's this guy that everyone's going on about? But yeah.
I tell you, he's probably he was a steal in the draft. And he's a bit like you come on there and you keep your number one QB, your
Mm,
veteran QB on the bench, and it's a bit like what you call him plays for the Chargers, Justin Herbert. Do you know what I
mm.
mean? So I mean, again,
He's ready to come in when you need him, kind of thing. Or you
yeah.
just play him anyway. Let him grow up quickly.
You see, I
Mm,
don't know that. I think maybe they'll go back the other way. They really need an experienced QB veteran quarterback,
mm.
who's played in Philly, loves Philly. Take Nick Foles back.
And you want Wentz, yeah? You're happy to have
My
Wentz.
blessing, take him back. Do
Mm. What
you know
about
what I
this
mean?
Heineke guy for Washington? He looked kind of nippy. He
Yeah,
looked very, very pocket present. I watched the Tampa game and they were just crushing the pocket. The Tampa rush was just crushing the pocket, and he was just dancing out of there, composed as hell.
yeah,
And obviously, You look at the game that Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, the game that they play, that playground football, that flag football. They're happy to dance around, like stretch the play out, run for a bit, throw it around here. Like, is he one to watch?
I think, for QB wise, for Chicago, we've always never had a great QB, but we've always backed up an amazing run game. Our run game suffered this year, but next year it should be top notch. For me, I think everybody goes out and they go, "Look, we should be signing Deshaun Watson." Get realistic. It's not going to happen. One, he's too expensive for our cap, and two, you're going to have to trade away the world to get him, and then you'll still have no line. You'll still have dodgy receivers. I mean, you have to have a realistic look at how you want to progress that team, and you've got guys like I would take Derek Carr. I would stay away from Matt Ryan. I would take Carson Wentz. I was really interested in taking Sam Darnold. I think he's obviously quite an interesting. Would I take Gardner Minshew? Probably. But you would want someone backing him. Trevor Lawrence is going to the Jaguars. There's no way Gardner Minshew is going to be a starter there. It's just not happening. Do you know what I mean? There's other guys floating around. Matt Ryan? No, probably not. Would I made a case for Stafford? No. Would I make a play for Jared Goff? Possibly, but you need some line. There's other guys. I tell you one quarterback I would go for, and I think you could get him for handy money. I think he had a rough patch there. I think he's underestimated. Would be Mariota. I would take him tomorrow for Chicago. I think if you're looking for someone who has a bit of composure and can still get out of the pocket, and can read defenses, he's your man. Do you know what I mean? So that there's a lot of we were chatting about that at the weekend. There's a lot of movement in the whole quarterback, and I'm not talking about as in teams drafting. What I'm saying is there's a lot of movement from established quarterbacks and the.
I think it's good. I think it's good. It shakes everything up, and it does shake up. Look at Brady now.
Brady is
prime example.
Do you know what I mean? Brady is the reason. They're all looking, going, "Oh, okay."
Can we just make a shift? Yeah.
Back cap space,
and to do it in his first year as well. To do it in his first year is a great advertisement for the moving around. So
do you know what I mean?
Man.
So
good stuff.
So there's a lot to talk about in the off season. I'm sure we'll get into it, but we'll get the Super Bowl out the way first, and then we'll see what happens near draft time. But I'd say there'll be a few big trades come Monday, Tuesday. Anyway, and maybe Wednesday, Thursday. There'll definitely be some movement.
They'll get them done that quick, yeah. That quick. They want to get started as soon as possible.
Oh, I think so. Do you know why? I think because if you start to establish it, where you're going with it, then you really then can start homing in the draft and the free agencies
and
start looking to see what you've got left, and who you can cut. But a lot of guys cut out at the end of the season are traded away. Do you know what I mean? So there's a few teams. The team I think in the NFC to watch next year will be the Cardinals. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald. And I think they'll draft. They've got a good bit of cap space. They've got good draft positions. That is my team to watch next year because Kyler Murray is like Lamar Jackson on speed, and he's more accurate. And he's got a better arm, and he's faster. It's just insane. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
what's the age difference? They were drafted how many years apart? Or the same year?
Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, he was what, MVP last year, so year before, so like 3 years or something like that, 2-3 years between them.
Oh, fair enough.
I mean, so
Murray will come into his own, I guess. He does some crazy stuff, and he does what's needed. You know what I mean? He's versatile, so you can't hold him back, man.
No,
right,
cool. But we'll call it a day then,
it's been emotional.
And we'll end this broadcast, and we'll see what happens on Sunday. Good luck with everything, beach and stuff. Hope you stay awake, and we'll sure I'll be chatting to you soon. All right.
No worries. All right, take
Catch
care.
you, bud. See you later. Bye.